And I had the opportunity of meeting one of the about 2 3 months back. There was a big delegate from Nigeria at the camp, and he invited me to give a talk about cybersecurity. That's my area. Yeah. And then I came to know about him, the kind of work he's doing. I just show we are also doing Nigeria connecting the unconnected summit. So I invited him to give a talk here, and he happily accepted that. You can see from his bio, he's an entrepreneur, he's a leader, he's also helping a lot of folks, not only in Nigeria, but around the world. And I like to leave it up to Dr. Okawa to talk about what you were doing. I think you're going to talk about connecting and connecting the unconnected economy in Nigeria, right? All right. So I know you have to buy 2 cats, so we wanted to put that as priority. So with that, let's just give a big hand.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chikosh. When Dr. Helen was speaking, I think somebody asked you a question about life expectancy and internet. When he talked about life expectancy in Nigeria to be 54 years old, 54 years, and then life expectancy in America to be 79. Then we went on our own. I think that the speaker, answered that there could be some connection between broadband and good medical care, but he didn't seem to make a strong case about the fact that there is a very strong connection between internet and development. And that's why I am here, because I am a development professional, and we've been exploring the connection between the internet and development. Of course, then there is also a strong connection between development and life expectancy. Countries that are a little bit more developed seem to have better lives and seem to have longer life expectancy, seem to live healthier than countries that are less developed. So much more than you imagine, internet is not just about being able to connect to 6G and talk, or download your videos, or do other stuff in the electrical and electronics sector. But internet has a lot of relevance on development. And that's the reason why I am here, because in my work as a development practitioner and professional, I have come to realize that there are quite a lot of roles that internet can play towards development, and especially for those who are living in rural communities across the world, but especially in Nigeria and Africa. In case some of you don't know Nigeria very well, it's the largest African country, most populated Black nation in the world, with about 240-something million people. But 1.5% of the Nigerian population do not have access to the internet. And that's like about 128 million people do not have access to any form of internet. So I'm here in America, and we're worrying about those in Jackson or those in Louisiana not having 6G or 5G. I'm talking about those who don't have access to 1G or 2G at all. And well, about 68% of Nigerians have cell phones, but less than 7% or 10% of Nigerians have some form of advanced ICT skills. And this is quite shocking, but it's true. About 85% of Nigerian graduates and undergraduates do not have ICT skills, because they are not able to acquire some of these skills while they are in the university. And I got to know about this because in the course of my development work, majority of people that we have trained in digital skills are just graduates, even graduates from technological universities, but had no opportunity to use the internet, to learn about the internet while they were in school. Some of them probably learned about them in theory, but not in practice. So it's a great privilege for me to be here. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm also not an electronic engineer. I'm just a lay person. But my passion for development has, brought me to this table. Wanting to share not just what we read in the textbooks or stories, but something that I have personally experienced when it comes to the connection between the internet and development. See, in 2022, there was an economic advisor to a state governor in Nigeria. He was appointed as the chief economic advisor, and he reached out to me and asked me how we can drive down unemployment in Imo State. Imo State is one of the 36 states in Nigeria, and it's made up of about 6 million people. So at that time, I told him that the only way, the fastest way we could drive down unemployment, because then Imo State was ranking highest in unemployment in Nigeria. I told him that the fastest way we could drive down unemployment would be through digital skilling, while teaching the young people digital skill so that they can be able to start businesses with their digital skills or even serve the world from Nigeria. They asked me to write an article about it, which I wrote, and the article went viral. And young people take that proposal, and then I was asked by the governor to develop a proposal on that. So I did. The governor of the state approved that proposal and created the Ministry for Digital Economy, and then that ministry started training young people. The ministry has done a lot. And I did not also end there. I also approached the Coca-Cola Foundation, sharing similar ideas about how we can help young people secure employment and drive down unemployment through digital skilling. But the proposal I sent to the Coca-Cola Foundation was more on those in rural communities, those who are not in the cities, those who are in the rural communities. And that proposal was approved, the Coca-Cola Foundation provided a substantial grant for us to train young people in digital skills and connect them.
People have to take a flight, so right after the bits and
I'm just how to do that work, See, sometimes ideas and reality do not match, So you can propose great ideas, but when you get into the field, the experience will teach you otherwise. And so we went into the field to train young people in digital skills, and we ended up, as of last year, training about 138,000 young people in digital skills. But our experience was that there are quite a number of people in rural communities in Nigeria who have no access to the internet. Our strategy was to set up digital training centers in rural communities and then set up digital workstations in rural communities, and then train people in various kinds of digital skills, including cybersecurity, for which we invited them to Washington to talk to the lawmakers in April, because we brought them to the United States to learn more about how we can continue to advance digital skills in Nigeria. And then we also wanted to make sure that these young people could serve and be able to secure jobs through some of these trainings. But when we wanted to set up the digital training centers in rural communities, then we realized that there are quite a lot of opportunities that could be explored. We realized that the ICT and digital scaling was quite in high demand in Nigeria, because many people out there at that time, and even till today, do not have the digital skills. And because they cannot come to the city where we have some digital skills training centers, then they just don't learn it. And so the opportunity there is that if one can take the digital skilling training, ICT training to those in remote communities, then they can learn it. The problem is that, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, the challenges, the facilities and everything involved in getting that training to them becomes a very big problem. So, and interestingly, 45% of Nigerians live in the rural communities. And so that's quite a large population that have completely been excluded from the internet, that are not connected. The digital divide is just, beyond compare. And these people are just out there doing their own thing, not being part of what the world is talking about, not being connected to anything because they have no access to the internet. But there is a huge opportunity in being able to train them in ICT and in digital skills. Our experience also is that most of the unemployed youths live in rural communities where they strive to survive through subsistence agriculture and PT jobs. Many depend on remittances from relatives in the city, but setting up digital training centers and workstations in rural Nigeria will create jobs, reduce unemployment, and facilitate development. This is because trained youths can use their skills to launch new businesses in the booming digital market, scale their PT businesses, and secure remote jobs. This will lead to employment, reduction of poverty, and consequently development. This is not just theory, this is something that we did. And after we finished the training, we noticed that some of them secured jobs, some of them started their own business. Actually, we even funded some of them to launch their own digital businesses. And they are doing quite well. Some of them learn skills, things like digital video editing. And today they are editing videos and making money. It's a lot of money too. And some of them learn quite different skills as at that time. So kicking the unemployed, kicking them into employment just because they got connected to the internet. They got connected to digital skills. But there's also something that was also very interesting that we noticed as at that time. There is the tendency for young people to move from the rural communities to the city because everything is happening in the city. Nothing is happening in the rural communities. I mean, I'm hearing about trying to get internet to everybody in America. I don't think the Nigerian government is thinking like that. They are just interested in the people that are in the city. Nobody cares so much about the many people that are in the rural communities. But there are quite a lot of people who do not wish to live in the city. And the cities are already congested. But more people are going to the cities every day because nothing is happening in the rural area. So people have to relocate to the cities to learn digital skills or to work in IT companies because nothing is happening. Whereas if we are able to bring digital skills training and job opportunities for them in the rural communities, there will be no need for them to move to the cities. And then the cities will not be overcrowded, and we won't be having the issues of housing, pollution, and stress all over that we have currently in the cities. There is also the issue of social impact, which we experience during our work in rural communities. We realized that schools, like primary schools and primary healthcare centers, they didn't have access to the internet. Nobody taught them computer. The hospitals have no doctors, don't have nurses, they don't have access to the computer. No doctor wants to stay in the rural area. Every doctor wants to be in the city. Part of the problem is because there are no human resources. There are no people who understand ICT. There are no people who understand digital skills in the rural communities to even teach in primary schools, to even teach kids in primary schools simple ICT. There are no people who have the capacity to even work in primary healthcare centers in rural communities, even to just connect sick people through telemedicine to the doctors in the city. And so there's no motivation, there's no interest for anybody to go and put in ICT labs in rural communities when there are no human resources, when there are no human capital to teach the classes, because everybody just wants to be in the city, because the city has everything, there's nothing in the rural community. So these were our experiences working with young people and trying to teach that skills and trying to connect young people to the internet in rural Nigeria. But we faced a lot of challenges. And in those challenges, we also noticed that there can be quite a lot of opportunity. One of the first challenges we faced is the challenge of electricity. See, here in America, we take electricity for granted. But when you come to rural Nigeria, many people do not have access to electricity. Yeah, there are some, electric supply companies now, but they are largely focused on the city, and they provide electricity once in a long while to those in the rural community. Like in my village, sometimes we only get electricity at Christmas time during the festive period all year round. And so it was very difficult for us to set up digital training centers in remote areas, because how are you going to power your computer? How are you going to power your ICT infrastructure when there is no national grid in your community? And so it was a very big challenge for us. We explored the opportunity of using generators to power the digital training centers and the workstations. But of course, that would come with a lot of cost. When it comes to buying gasoline and maintaining the generators. But that also opened up an opportunity for us when we now started exploring using solar energy to be able to power the computers. That really worked out very well. And I see a market in that area. We must not all go through the normal process of using gasoline to power to provide electricity, but we can also cut the line and move straight to solar. And I see a lot of opportunity there. Now, it's a lot of capital intensive at the initial time, but over a period of time, I think there seems to be some kind of advantage. So one of the problems that we have in connecting people in rural community is electricity. So you can't be talking about 6G, 5G, and everything you can talk about without power. I assume that people talk about 5G and 6G here in America because they presume that there is power already. But you can't talk about that in Nigeria because there is no power in rural communities. So even if you have all the best 7G and 8G in the world, who's going to power it? What electricity are you going to use? Who's going to charge your phone for your phone to connect to the internet? And so those who are pushing connecting the unconnected should also find a way to push electricity supply. Because without electricity, you are as good as nothing, So without electricity, you are as good as nothing. So as we keep talking about 4G and 5G, we should also look into ways to provide power to support the computers and the smartphones that we use the smart T. Otherwise, we'll create smart G, 6Gs, but then there will be no electricity for those in rural Nigeria to even be able to connect to the internet. So solar option is one. Those in the electrical and electronic area can explore and look into creating technologies, systems, facilities, ICT infrastructures that are powered by solar, limiting the dependence on electricity. Another challenge we encountered was the internet itself. If you come to Nigeria, we have a lot of telecommunication companies, MTN, Globacom, there are plenty of them, but they concentrate in the city. They don't have much presence in rural areas. So if I go to my village now, I cannot get internet in my room. If you call me on the phone, it means that you cannot get me on the phone because there's no internet. So there are quite a lot of dead zones in rural communities. And so that was a big problem for us. We struggled to also, because when we created some digital training centers and workstations, we had to struggle to then connect them to the internet. And so even if we're going to talk about 6G and 5G, we have to even talk about the first hands of even the people having access to the internet. Of course, in the remote areas, there are no broadbands. What you have are just the mobile networks. But that pushed us to discover Starlink. We discovered Starlink as at that time, and Starlink was working quite very well. Unlike the regular mobile networks we have in Nigeria that struggle to download videos and other things, the Starlink we used was able to download videos fast and was able to handle some complex ICT tasks, unlike the regular internet data companies that we were using. So that creates an opportunity there. That shows that something can work other than what the traditional system of providing internet is. And right now, quite a number of people are looking into Starlink, how it could be commercialized, or how it could be made to reach more people in the rural communities. Now, I don't have the answer to that, but I believe that electrical and electronic engineers might be thinking around that and thinking whether that could be the solution for people in remote communities, in rural communities like Nigeria and other places. That way, at least, we have some real or true Wi-Fi available to the people, because otherwise, without that, it was very difficult for us to be able to then connect our computer to the internet. Currently, people have cell phones in rural areas. So the cell phones, the best they do with the cell phones would be to send messages on WhatsApp or Facebook or something. And they can't download a video of 3 minutes or 2 minutes with that, And even if they have to have the internet, the data is also quite very expensive. Now, people think that Starlink is very expensive, but that's not true. Because when we're doing our training, our over 200 or 300 people could connect to the Starlink at the same time. And the stability was still the same. It didn't change. It was still very fast. And we're paying something less than $20 or $30 a month when you convert it to Nigerian currency. And so it was really a game changer for us in the work that we did. And we are hoping that satellite internets like Starlink and perhaps there are other ones might be solutions to access to internet for those in rural and remote communities in Nigeria and other parts of the world. Another challenge that we faced while we were trying to train people in digital skills and connect them to the internet was the problem of ICT infrastructure and equipment. You see, if you go to the entire community, there's probably nobody that has a laptop. People may have some kind of smartphones, but they don't have laptops. And of course, you can't do real ICT work without some laptops. There's so much you can do with a cell phone. But people did not have the computers because most of the people in remote communities were largely poor. But not that they were just poor. I think I noticed also that there was no need, there was no interest in computers, in desktops, in laptops. Because what are they going to do with it? There's nothing to do with it. But I noticed that when we started the training in digital skills, then the interest in laptop and desktop started arising. People started asking for computers. People started asking for laptops. People started asking for them because they are beginning to see what they can do with them and how that can make a change in their life. And so we had to engage some people that sold used laptops, and then we sold used laptops to them and made them to pay small, and they did pay. I see a very great market opportunity there because the market is not there because people are not aware of what they can do with a laptop. And sometimes I wonder what laptop producing companies do. If I were them, I would fund trainings in digital skills for this kind of people. And then through the training, they will have interest in wanting to buy laptops. And then you can sell your laptops to them. My understanding, my experience was that people were not didn't have the laptop because they didn't know the value of it. They didn't have any need for it. So when we started training them in digital skills, we created need. And they were able to start buying the laptops. So this was our experience, and these are the challenges and opportunities that we discovered while we were working in the field. And this made us to feel like there has to be an immediate, quick intervention in these remote communities, because since after our programs, many people's lives have been changed because they were able to get some digital skills, and then they were able to connect to the global digital world, to the global digital economy. There is a very strong connection between connecting to the internet and development. Because what is development if not employment? What is development if not having good health? What is employment if not having good education? What is development if not having good education? And so, but you can't have good, like in my state, you can't have enough employment. We don't even have factories for people to work. And so if digital skills and connecting to the internet would provide jobs, because now some of the young people we train are not having companies in the United States from Nigeria. They are sitting in the work session that we created, and they are employed by companies here, and they are serving them, and they are paying them money, and they are using that money to change their lives, to become better. Now, the doctors in Nigeria do not want to go to the remote area because of this infrastructure. But think about telemedicine and other kinds of technological medical system that could even bring the people in the remote area in touch with doctors. Some of the people in the remote areas do not have need, because some of them have to drive like 1 hour or 2 hours to the city to see a doctor. But they can see the doctor through telemedicine without having to go to the city. But how can they, when there is no internet, when there is no electricity, when there is no power? So you can't talk about development without good health. But if internet can make access to good health better, and if you have good health, then your lifespan will then increase and become better. So I'm ending on this note of saying there is a strong connection between internet and development and longevity and lifespan. And I'm inviting electrical and electronics engineers to also think about the access to internet, connecting the unconnected from the lens of development and how it can make and improve our lives, and especially the lives of those who are in rural and remote communities in Nigeria and across the world. Thank you.